The fastest way I can describe what changed for me is this. I stopped thinking about my tap water. I just fill a tank, press a button, and the water I actually want to drink is sitting in a glass carafe a few minutes later. This is the Bluevua RO100ROPOT, and it's a countertop reverse osmosis water filter. So it lives in that space between basic pitcher filters and the undersink RO systems that need plumbing, drilling, and a dedicated faucet. If you're renting, if you don't want to mess with your pipes, if you travel with an RV, or you just want something that feels more appliance-like than a Brita-style pitcher, this category makes a lot of sense. It's also for anyone who cares about reducing TDS and the stuff that tends to come with it, off tastes, mineral buildup, and that lingering I don't fully trust this feeling from certain municipal systems. I've had this unit on my counter long enough that the routine is second nature now, and the design choices are what make or break that routine. The footprint is real. You're giving up some counter space, and it's not a lightweight gadget you casually move around every day. Once I picked a spot near an outlet and near the sink, that was basically its home. The part I appreciate every single day is the carafe. Bluevua uses a borosilicate glass pitcher instead of plastic, and in normal life, that means my water doesn't sit in a container that's picking up smells, clouding over time, or getting that scratched up look that plastic eventually gets. Pouring from it feels like using an actual kitchen carafe, not a water filter accessory. There's also something quietly reassuring about seeing the water you're about to drink. And I know that sounds irrational, but it's true. The glass makes the whole process feel cleaner. The trade-off is that it's glass, and I treat it like glass. I don't bang it on the sink, and I don't let it clink around with heavy dishes. If you're the type who breaks wine glasses regularly, you'll want to be mindful here. Day to day, the system is basically a batch purifier. You pour tap water into the top reservoir, and you get purified water into the carafe. And you also get reject water left behind, because that's how reverse osmosis works. That manual aspect is the number one thing people should understand before they buy a countertop reverse osmosis unit. If you want a system that you never think about, an undersink system plumbed to a drain is still the most hands-off. With this, I'm involved. I refill the tank and I empty what's left. It's not hard, but it's a rhythm. Setup was refreshingly simple in the sense that I didn't install anything. No tools, no faucet adapter, no cutting tubing. I plugged it in, seated the carafe properly, filled the tank, and ran the flushing cycles it recommends before drinking the water. That first day process is a little tedious because you're basically conditioning the filters and getting everything ready. And the early water can look slightly cloudy from carbon fines. That went away for me after the initial cycles, and after that, it became fill, press, walk away. The interface is straightforward, and more importantly, it's readable at a glance. The built-in display showing filter life is not just a nice-to-have. It stops the guessing. With simpler filters, I always ended up asking myself, is this still good, or am I just hoping it is? Here, I can look over and know where I'm at. The other thing I ended up liking more than I expected is the real-time water quality readout. I've tested my tap water a few times with a separate meter, but seeing the shift in TDS right on the unit made me trust the process more, because it's immediate feedback, not a vague promise. Speed is good for what it is. This isn't like turning on a faucet and instantly getting a stream. It's filtering actively with a pump, so you hear it. There's a steady hum while it runs, and in a quiet kitchen you'll notice it. It's not blender loud, and it doesn't scream broken, but it is a powered appliance doing work. For me, it's background noise, something I run while I'm making breakfast, cleaning, or answering emails. Where performance gets interesting is consistency. With RO systems, water temperature and water quality matter. In warmer months, it feels quicker. In colder months, especially if your tap water runs very cold, the process slows down. I saw a noticeable difference during winter mornings. It still worked, it just took longer. Once I understood that, I stopped being annoyed by it, because it's not a defect, it's physics. If I wanted it to move faster, I'd sometimes mix in a bit of warmer water in the tank, so the feed water wasn't near freezing. The whole point of RO is contaminant reduction. And I can't personally lab test every claim, but I can talk about what I can observe. Taste, scale, and how the water behaves. The taste difference was immediate compared to my straight tap water, and even compared to carbon-only filtration. The swimming pool hint from chlorine disappeared for me, and the water stopped having that heavy mineral finish. At the same time, It didn't taste flat in the way some RO water does, and I attribute that to the remineralization stage. I'm picky about water that tastes too stripped, especially for coffee and tea, and this landed in a place where it tastes clean but not lifeless. I also noticed a practical difference in my electric kettle. Before using this, I'd get mineral scale building up pretty fast. With the Bluevua water, buildup slowed down dramatically. It didn't become magically zero forever, but it became a deal with it occasionally thing instead of a constant annoyance. That kind of side effect matters because it's the stuff you live with daily. One testing scenario I kept repeating was filling a bottle for the gym and leaving it in the car. With my tap water, I'd sometimes come back to a weird smell or taste, especially if the bottle wasn't perfectly clean. With the filtered water from this unit, that issue became much less common. Another scenario was cooking. When I made rice and pasta with it, the water didn't have that faint metallic edge I sometimes get from my pipes. That might sound subtle, but when you're eating something plain, my most frequent use case is honestly boring. Filling a big insulated bottle in the morning and refilling it once in the afternoon. For a single person or a couple, the capacity feels workable. For a larger household, it can turn into a lot of cycles. And that's where the countertop format shows its limits. You're going to be refilling the tank more often, and you'll be emptying reject water more often. The efficiency of the pure-to-drain ratio is better than older RO systems I've used, but it's still an RO system. Water goes in, some of it comes out purified, and some of it doesn't. I tend to reuse the leftover water for plants or cleaning when it makes sense, just so it doesn't feel wasteful. The smarter features here are not flashy, they just remove friction. Auto standby is one of those you don't think about it things, but I like that it isn't sitting there acting like a space heater or running more than it needs to. The filter life monitor is genuinely useful, and the TDS display is a confidence builder. There are also small practical sensors that keep things from getting messy, like making sure the carafe is positioned properly before it dispenses. That's the kind of detail you only appreciate after you've had a device that leaks all over your counter. Maintenance has been pretty manageable. The filters aren't something I'm swapping every week. When it's time, and the unit tells me. I do recommend staying on top of descaling if you have hard water. In my case, if I ignored it too long, I could tell the system wasn't as happy. Flow slowed, and it just felt like the pump was working harder. A little preventative cleaning kept it running smoothly. So, here's the honest wrap-up. If you want countertop RO because you don't want plumbing, this is one of the more livable options I've used. The glass carafe improves the daily experience more than I expected. The water tastes clean without tasting dead, and the feedback from the display makes it easy to trust and maintain. The trade-offs are real. It takes counter space, it makes some noise while running, and the manual refill and reject water routine can feel repetitive, especially for bigger households. If you're okay with that rhythm, it delivers what I personally want from a home RO unit. Water I'm happy to drink all day without second-guessing it. Check the comments of this video for a link to see the current pricing of the Bluevua RO100ROPOT Reverse Osmosis System Countertop Water Filter.